You don't belong here with real business people." Victoria Whitmore's voice cut through the elegant charity gala like a knife, her face twisted with rage as she towered over Maya Johnson. The crystal chandeliers cast harsh shadows across the confrontation that erupted in the middle of Chicago's most exclusive social event. Maya, a brilliant 28-year-old tech entrepreneur, had been calmly discussing her company's community initiatives when Victoria, the pampered heiress whose family name opened every door in the city, decided to publicly tear her down. The tension between them had been building all evening, but now it exploded into something far more dangerous. "At least my family earned their money through honest work," Maya replied with deadly calm, her words hitting Victoria like a physical blow. The crowd of Chicago's elite began to gather, sensing the drama unfolding before their eyes. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand trembled with fury. "How dare you question my family's legacy?" she screamed, her voice cracking with entitlement and rage. "You're nothing but new money trying to buy respect." That's when it happened. Victoria's hand flew through the air with a sharp crack that echoed across the ballroom. The slap landed squarely across Maya's cheek, sending shockwaves through the crowd of horrified onlookers. Gasps rippled through the room as hundreds of phones instantly pointed toward the confrontation, capturing every second of what would soon become the most viral moment of the year. Maya's head turned slightly from the impact, but she didn't stumble. She didn't cry out. Instead, she slowly straightened, her hand moving to touch her reddened cheek as a mysterious smile played at the corners of her lips. The room fell into deadly silence, waiting for her reaction. Victoria stood there breathing heavily, her face flushed with satisfaction, clearly expecting Maya to crumble or flee. But Maya did neither. She looked directly into Victoria's eyes with a calmness that seemed almost supernatural given what just happened. "You have no idea what you just did," Maya said, her voice steady and quiet, yet somehow carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. The words hung in the air like a promise of something bigger coming. Victoria's confident smirk began to falter, as she registered something unsettling in Maya's tone. This wasn't the reaction of someone who had been defeated. This was the response of someone who held all the cards and was about to play them. Maya reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, her movements deliberate and controlled. Her fingers moved across the screen as she typed a message that would change everything. The crowd watched in fascination as this woman who had just been publicly humiliated showed no signs of backing down. If you're already hooked by this incredible story of justice and revenge, make sure to hit that subscribe button because what happens next will blow your mind. But here's what I want to know. What would you do if someone publicly humiliated you like this? Would you fight back immediately or play the long game like Maya? Let me know in the comments below. Because Maya Johnson wasn't just any successful entrepreneur. She was someone who spent her entire life fighting for everything she had, and Victoria Whitmore had just made the biggest mistake of her privileged life. To understand the true magnitude of what just happened, you need to know exactly who these two women were and why this moment would shake Chicago's elite to its core. Maya Johnson traveled an impossible journey to reach this gala. At just 28 years old, she stood as one of the most brilliant self-made entrepreneurs in the country. But her path to success had been carved through unimaginable hardship. When Maya was only 8 years old, a devastating car accident stole both her parents in a single night, throwing her into Chicago's foster care system, where she would spend the next decade of her life. While other kids complained about homework, Maya worked just to survive. She cleaned offices before school, tutored classmates during lunch, and stocked shelves until midnight, all while maintaining perfect grades that would eventually earn her full academic scholarships. Her foster families changed constantly, but her determination never wavered. At Harvard Business School, while her classmates networked at expensive restaurants, Maya was busy building her first company from her tiny dorm room. By age 22, she created an innovative software solution that caught the attention of major tech giants. When she sold that company for $50 million at just 24, Maya proved that brilliance and hard work could triumph over any circumstance. But Maya wasn't satisfied with just one success. She took every penny from that sale and poured it into her current venture, an AI startup that revolutionized how businesses operated. Within 4 years, her company was valued at $500 million, making Maya one of the youngest, self-made female billionaires in America. What nobody at the gala knew, however, was that Maya hadn't returned to Chicago just to network or announce a business expansion. For the past 18 months, she had been executing the most sophisticated corporate takeover in the city's history, using a complex web of shell companies and financial strategies to secretly acquire something very specific. Standing across from Maya that night was everything she had fought against her entire life. Victoria Whitmore represented the pinnacle of unearned privilege, a 32-year-old woman who had never worked a single day in her pampered existence. Victoria was fourth-generation wealth, born into the Whitmore Industries empire that had dominated Chicago's real estate market for over a century. While Maya fought for every opportunity, Victoria simply existed, living off family dividends and trusting that her last name would always open doors. She spent her days shopping, her evenings at exclusive parties, and her nights secure in the knowledge that money would never be a concern. But Victoria's perfect world was built on a foundation of lies. Her family had been desperately hiding the truth from her for months. Whitmore Industries was hemorrhaging money, drowning in debt, and facing bankruptcy. Her parents shielded her from the financial reality, maintaining her lavish lifestyle even as their empire crumbled around them. Victoria felt threatened by Maya's intelligence and genuine success because it highlighted everything she wasn't. Maya earned respect through achievement, while Victoria simply inherited a name. Maya commanded rooms through competence, while Victoria relied on her family's fading influence. The annual Chicago Elite Business Foundation Charity Gala wasn't chosen randomly for this confrontation. This event had been sponsored by the Whitmore family for decades, serving as their annual display of power and influence. For Victoria, it was home turf where she felt untouchable. For Maya, however, this gala represented the perfect stage for what she was about to reveal. She strategically selected this venue, this audience, this moment to make an announcement that would rewrite Chicago's power structure forever. As Maya stood there with her cheek still stinging from Victoria's slap, she knew that everything was about to change. The text message she had just sent would bring the final piece of her master plan into motion. And Victoria Whitmore was about to discover that some battles are lost before they even begin. The tension in that ballroom had been building long before the slap echoed across the room. Maya Johnson arrived at the gala that evening with a quiet confidence that seasoned business people immediately recognized. The calm assurance of someone who held all the cards and was simply waiting for the right moment to play them. As Maya mingled with Chicago's elite, she dropped subtle hints that sent ripples through the crowd. She casually mentioned her interest in real estate investments and how she was always looking for undervalued assets with tremendous potential. To most attendees, these seemed like typical networking conversations, but a few sharp-eared investors began paying closer attention. Across the room, Charles Whitmore, Victoria's father and the CEO of Whitmore Industries, looked increasingly stressed as the evening progressed. He stepped away repeatedly to take mysterious phone calls, his face growing more haggard with each conversation. His business associates noticed his unusual behavior, whispering among themselves about potential trouble at the family company. Victoria remained completely oblivious to her father's distress, floating through the gala focused entirely on social status and maintaining her position as Chicago's ultimate socialite. While her family's empire teetered on the edge of collapse, Victoria concerned herself with who was wearing what designer dress and which photographer was capturing her best angles. When it came time for Maya's presentation about her company's expansion plans, she took the stage with the poise of someone who had conquered every challenge life threw at her. Her speech was masterfully crafted, filled with references to exciting acquisition opportunities in Chicago, and how her company was always looking to invest in established businesses with strong foundations but perhaps outdated leadership. Victoria couldn't contain herself. She interrupted Maya's presentation with a loud, condescending laugh. "Oh, please, Victoria announced to the crowd. "We all know what this is really about. New money always tries to buy respectability, but you can't purchase class or legacy." Maya didn't miss a beat. She maintained perfect composure and smiled graciously at Victoria's interruption. "You're absolutely right about legacy being important," Maya replied smoothly. "But sometimes the best investments are hiding in plain sight. Smart money recognizes value that others might overlook." Victoria's rage began building as she sensed Maya was hinting at something beyond her understanding. The tech entrepreneur's words seemed layered with meaning that Victoria couldn't quite grasp, and nothing frustrated her more than feeling intellectually outmatched. The confrontation escalated when Victoria decided to attack Maya's business directly. "Some companies have a legacy that spans generations," Victoria declared, her voice dripping with disdain, "while others are just flash-in-the-pan startups that disappear as quickly as they appeared." Maya's response was delivered with surgical precision. "The market has interesting ways of rewarding real value over perceived legacy," she said, her mysterious smile growing wider. "Sometimes what looks permanent from the outside is actually quite fragile when you examine the fundamentals." If you're loving this strategic battle of wits and want to see how Maya's master plan unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to take the most incredible turn. Victoria completely missed the implications of Maya's words, but her frustration at feeling outsmarted pushed her to launch increasingly personal attacks. She questioned Maya's background, her qualifications, even her right to be at the gala. With each insult, Maya's smile became more knowing, as if Victoria was walking deeper into a trap she couldn't see. "What would you do if someone kept attacking you but you knew you held a secret that would destroy them? Would you reveal it immediately, or let them dig their own grave deeper? Let me know in the comments." Victoria's final mistake was underestimating the woman standing before her. Frustrated by Maya's unshakable confidence and increasingly convinced that this foster care survivor was somehow mocking her family's empire, Victoria let her entitlement override her judgment. In a moment of pure rage, she decided that physical violence was the answer to her intellectual inadequacy. But Maya's mysterious smile suggested she knew something Victoria didn't, something that would soon turn this humiliating assault into the biggest mistake of Victoria's privileged life. The slap that echoed through the ballroom created an immediate explosion of activity. Phones appeared from every direction as Chicago's elite scrambled to capture what they instinctively knew would become viral content within hours. The gasps and shocked whispers created a buzz that filled the elegant space, but at the center of it all stood Maya Johnson, and her reaction was absolutely chilling. Maya didn't seem shocked by what just happened. She didn't appear angry or devastated. Instead, she stood there with an almost eerie calm, as if this violent outburst was exactly what she had been expecting all along. Her composure was so unsettling that even the onlookers began to sense something deeper was at play. Across the room, Charles Whitmore went completely pale as he witnessed his daughter's assault. As a businessman who navigated corporate waters for decades, he immediately understood the massive legal implications of what Victoria had just done. This wasn't just a social embarrassment. This was a potential criminal charge, a lawsuit, and a public relations nightmare all rolled into one devastating moment. Maya reached for her phone with deliberate precision, her fingers moving across the screen as she placed a call that would change everything. Her voice was steady and controlled as she spoke just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Cormac, she just made this personal. It's time. Come now." The mysterious nature of that phone call sent ripples of curiosity through the crowd. Who was Cormac? What did "it's time" mean? And why did Maya sound like someone who had just triggered a carefully planned sequence of events? Victoria, meanwhile, remained completely oblivious to the gravity of what she had done. Fueled by adrenaline and a lifetime of privilege that had always protected her from consequences, she began making threats that would soon prove to be laughably empty. "My family owns half this city," Victoria declared to anyone within earshot, her voice still shaking with rage. "You think you can come here and disrespect us? Whitmore Industries will crush any startup that dares to cross us." She referenced her daddy's connections, the family's century-old legacy, and their supposed stranglehold on Chicago's business community. "You can't touch old Chicago money," she announced with the confidence of someone who had never faced real opposition in her entire pampered life. Maya's response was what made seasoned business observers in the crowd begin to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. She didn't retaliate with anger or threats. She didn't call security or demand an apology. Instead, she looked directly at Victoria with that same mysterious smile and said something that would haunt the Whitmore family forever. "Ownership is such an interesting concept, don't you think?" Maya replied, her words carrying implications that Victoria was too blind with rage to understand. What happened next was perhaps the most unsettling part of the entire evening. Maya simply returned to networking, but now her energy had completely shifted. She moved through the crowd like someone holding a royal flush in a high-stakes poker game, radiating the quiet confidence of someone who knew the next card to be played would win everything. Business leaders who had been watching the confrontation began approaching Maya with new respect, sensing that her calm reaction suggested she possessed far more power than anyone had realized. Meanwhile, social media exploded as videos of the slap began circulating, but Maya seemed completely unconcerned about the viral storm brewing around her. Charles Whitmore, however, was becoming increasingly desperate. He began trying to pull Victoria away from the crowd, his experienced businessman's instincts screaming that his daughter had just made a catastrophic mistake. But Victoria was too intoxicated by her own sense of superiority to listen to her father's urgent whispers. As the minutes ticked by, the tension in the ballroom became almost unbearable. Maya's mysterious phone call clearly set something in motion, and everyone could sense that whatever was coming would be bigger than anyone imagined. The calm before the storm was ending, and Victoria Whitmore was about to discover that some people you simply don't touch. 23 minutes after Maya made that mysterious phone call, the ballroom's grand entrance doors swung open with dramatic force. Every head turned as Cormac Johnson strode into the room with the commanding presence that made him a legend in Chicago's business community. At 35, Cormac was everything his younger sister Maya was, but amplified. A tech billionaire who built Johnson Technologies from nothing into a Fortune 50 company, he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who controlled billions of dollars and thousands of jobs. Like Maya, he was completely self-made, having clawed his way out of the same foster care system that had shaped his sister's unbreakable will. But Cormac wasn't just Maya's older brother. He was her business partner, her legal advisor, and her closest confidant. They survived everything together, and now they conquered together. As he walked through the crowd, people instinctively stepped aside, recognizing one of the most powerful men in America. What made the crowd's attention laser focus on him wasn't just his presence. It was the thick folder of documents he carried and the knowing smile that played across his face. That smile was identical to Maya's mysterious expression, and it suggested that whatever was about to happen had been planned for a very long time. Cormac made his way directly to where Maya stood, completely ignoring Victoria's continued threats and Charles Whitmore's increasingly panicked expression. The siblings exchanged a look that spoke volumes. This was the moment they had been working toward for 18 months. "Ladies and gentlemen," Cormac announced, his voice carrying easily across the now silent ballroom, "I have some rather interesting news to share about Chicago's business landscape." He opened the folder and pulled out a stack of official documents, holding them high enough for the crowd to see the legal seals and signatures that made them authentic. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Maya Johnson became the majority owner of Whitmore Industries, controlling 78% of all company stock and assets. The words hit the crowd like a physical blow. Gasps echoed through the ballroom as Chicago's elite tried to process what they just heard. Maya Johnson, the woman who had just been publicly assaulted, now owned the company of the woman who had attacked her. Cormac continued with the precision of a master strategist revealing his winning move. This hostile takeover was completed through a network of shell companies that my sister has been using to systematically acquire Whitmore stock and corporate debt over the past 18 months. Every share purchased legally, every transaction documented, every regulatory requirement exceeded. The ultimate irony of the situation began to dawn on the horrified crowd. Victoria Whitmore had just physically assaulted her new boss. The pampered heiress who lived off family dividends had just attacked the woman who now controlled her entire financial future. Victoria's reaction was pure shock and disbelief. "That's impossible," she screamed, her voice cracking with desperation. "My family has owned that company for 4 generations. You can't just buy it." But Charles Whitmore's ashen face told the real story. With the weight of defeat crushing his shoulders, he confirmed what his daughter couldn't accept. "It's true, Victoria," he said quietly. "We've been bankrupt for months. We had to sell everything just to survive." The revelation shattered Victoria's reality into a million pieces. She had been living on borrowed time and borrowed money for months, while her parents desperately tried to hide their financial collapse. Her trust fund, her lavish lifestyle, her designer clothes, even the family mansion where she had grown up, all of it now belonged to Maya Johnson. Victoria began making desperate attempts at apologies, her entitled rage instantly transforming into panic as she processed that she had lost everything. The woman she had just humiliated and assaulted now controlled every aspect of her life, from her family's legacy to her own financial future. Maya stood there watching Victoria's world crumble, that same mysterious smile never leaving her face. For 18 months, she had been systematically dismantling the Whitmore empire, and Victoria had been too focused on social media and shopping to notice that her entire life was being bought out from under her. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the most dramatic reversal of fortune in Chicago's history played out before their eyes. The slap that was supposed to put Maya in her place had instead revealed that Victoria just attacked the one person who now held complete power over her family's destiny. With the takeover revelation hanging in the air like a verdict, Maya finally stepped forward to address the stunned crowd. Her voice was calm and measured as she explained exactly how she had identified and exploited every single vulnerability in Whitmore Industries' corporate structure. "When I began researching Chicago's business landscape 18 months ago," Maya began, "I discovered that Whitmore Industries was a perfect example of a company coasting on legacy rather than innovation. Outdated management practices, resistance to technological advancement, and a complete disconnect between leadership and market realities." She detailed how she used her AI company's analytical capabilities to predict exactly when Whitmore Industries would become financially vulnerable, then positioned herself to acquire their debt and stock at precisely the right moments. Every business contract, every employment decision, every strategic direction for the company, all of it was now hers to control. The crowd began to understand the full scope of what had just transpired. Victoria's assault on Maya hadn't just been a social embarrassment. It was literally an employee attacking her CEO. The power dynamic between these two women hadn't just shifted. It had completely and permanently reversed. Maya then delivered what would become one of the most quoted speeches in Chicago business history. "True business success requires vision, strategic thinking, and the ability to see potential where others see problems," she announced to the captivated audience. "I saw potential in Whitmore Industries that the family who owned it for 4 generations never bothered to develop." She explained how the company's valuable real estate holdings, established client relationships, and strong brand recognition were being wasted under management that treated the business like a personal piggy bank rather than a dynamic enterprise. While the Whitmore family focused on maintaining their social status, they completely ignored the fact that their company was hemorrhaging money and losing market share every quarter. The crowd erupted in a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Chicago's elite recognized they just witnessed not only incredible business genius, but also strategic patience that bordered on artistic. Maya had spent 18 months executing a plan so sophisticated that even seasoned corporate veterans were in awe. Victoria stood frozen in the middle of this celebration, experiencing the most complete public humiliation imaginable. She realized she was now entirely dependent on Maya's mercy. The same woman she had just slapped was now the only person who could determine whether Victoria would have any future at all. If you're amazed by this incredible story of strategic justice and want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because stories like Maya's prove that intelligence and patience can triumph over any adversity. Maya's next decision demonstrated the grace that carried her through every challenge in her remarkable life. Instead of destroying Victoria completely, she offered her former tormentor a chance at redemption. Victoria can keep a job at the company, Maya announced, but it will be entry-level, and she'll need to learn what the rest of us already know, that respect is earned through work, not inherited through birth. The broader lesson wasn't lost on anyone in that ballroom. They had just witnessed the ultimate demonstration of how earned success triumphs over inherited privilege, how strategic thinking defeats entitlement, and how true power comes from building something rather than simply inheriting it. What do you think? Was Maya's offer of an entry-level job too generous, or was giving Victoria a chance to learn real work ethic the perfect form of justice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. Maya had turned Whitmore Industries from a failing legacy company into a profitable, innovative enterprise that was leading Chicago's real estate market into the digital age. Victoria, meanwhile, was learning to work for the first time in her life, starting as a junior assistant and slowly discovering what it meant to earn rather than simply receive. The final image that crystallized Maya's incredible journey was breathtaking in its symbolism. Maya Johnson sat behind the massive oak desk in the CEO office that had once belonged to Victoria's grandfather, the company founder. The office had been redecorated with modern touches that honored the company's history while embracing its future, and on the desk sat a simple nameplate that told the whole story. Maya Johnson, CEO, Whitmore Industries. From foster care to Fortune 500 CEO, Maya proved that in America, your beginning doesn't determine your ending. Your determination does. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and share with others so they can learn too. See you in our next video.